Marriage is built on expectations. Okay, some are spoken, others are assumed. They are healthy. So some are healthy and realistic, others are rooted in culture, upbringing, or personal desires. Expectations shape how we see our spouse, the person you are willing to be with, and say to them, look, I want my marriage to be like the Prince of Zamunda. Are you with me on that? Do you understand what I mean by Prince Zamunda? Do you understand how the movie unfolded? Wife or your wife to be about what's going on in your heart. You were just assuming, like, okay, I'm going to be the one making money. I'm going to be walking. I'm going to be working. And my wife is going to be staying at home to raise our children. You are assuming. You haven't asked her. You have not talked to her. You haven't discussed all these things, but yet you're assuming somehow that your wife will take that role to be
Regardez notre nation. Regardons bien notre pays. Dieu nous a bénis avec ces grands pays. L'envie de tous les peuples, tous les pays. Les gens parlent que de notre pays en bien. Mais la majorité des temps, c'est nous les Congolais, en principe, qui parlent en mal. Non. Que voyons-nous pour notre pays, la RDC? Que voyons-nous pour notre pays, la RDC? Dieu nous a bénis. Dieu nous a donné cette terre. Que voyons-nous? Parce qu'il y a certaines personnes, pour eux, c'est toujours en Europe. C'est là où il y a la vie.
Nicholas, I want to minister to you. I feel the Spirit of the Lord is speaking to me right now. Even before the foundation of the world, you are going to call yourself when I called you. And on the inside of you are planted dreams and visions. But the Lord said this is a strategic timing for you. You tear down mindsets. You tear down strongholds. And you change the thinking of my people. The Lord said give you the days to come. I'm going to give you open doors for you.
Hello and welcome to this channel. Today I want to talk about how expectations and assumptions destroyed my marriage. This is something that, as I said, I'm putting these videos out here in order to help anyone who is actually going through a difficult situation in their own in a couple, in a relationship, and also just basically giving some advice to those who are wanting to get married, especially within the Christian context. I believe this is very, very important for us to understand. Divorce is just one of those difficult things that you don't want to go through, and I wouldn't want to wish it on anyone. And that's the reason why I am putting this out there in order to help. I personally am going through it, and I had a lot of tons of questions that I needed answered, and therefore I went into a quest really to get answers to my own questions, and that ended up basically in me writing a book on this. And what I do in this video series, just really touching taking pieces from the book and just discuss it with you, so that in the hope that we can exchange and you can learn something and I can learn something from you when you do write or comments. And the hope is just basically so we can have better relationship in the future. That is my aim in doing this. And as I said, this is within the Christian context and Christian way of looking at marriage, because you need to understand that the world has its own way of looking at a marriage, and and Christians as well look at marriage differently based on the scriptures, based on the word of God. So without further ado, if you haven't watched any of my videos before, I would advise you to please go back and get to watch, because then it allows you to understand what I have said before and give you a bit of context to what I'm saying today, and so you can get my perspective on this matter. So today, as I mentioned, I want to talk about expectation and assumptions. Okay, so every marriage is built on expectations. Okay, some are spoken, others are assumed. They are healthy. So some are healthy and realistic, others are rooted in culture, upbringing, or personal desires. Expectations shape how we see our spouse, how we respond to conflict, and how we measure success in our relationship. I say again, expectations shape how we see our spouse, how we respond to conflict, and how we measure success in our relationship. That's very important for us to grasp at this moment. If your expectation of the relationship that you're in, before you get married, before you get committed to someone, people have different expectations. Some people they look at, they envision this marriage being like a fairy tale. You know, they are hoping to get into this idea that is embedded in them based on some movies that they watch on television, or things that they see on different movies that they watch. So therefore they are hoping that their marriage will somehow reflect or resemble what they have watched on television. And those are the kind of things, when you have those kind of expectation, it will shape how you see your spouse and what you, or how you respond to conflict, and how you measure success. So say, for example, if your expectation is, I want my marriage to be like that movie, The Prince of Zamunda, and you know, this is what you have in your mind. Oh, I saw this when Prince Akeem, and he went and met with this Lisa, and they had this conversation. Oh, it was so wonderful. It was snowing. I was looking outside. It was just like, oh, so my marriage is going to be like this. I will be like Lisa. I will be like Akeem, and vice versa. So you see, if you have built that kind of image of what you want your marriage to be like, then obviously it will determine how you see your spouse. So whether he acts like Akeem, or whether she acts like Lisa, you see, you begin to judge everything based on that. And that can be, not that it can, but it will be problematic. Number one, because that's a movie. It's not a real life situation. But moving on. But when expectations are unspoken or built on assumption, they create confusion, disappointment, and division. When expectations are unspoken or built on assumption, they create confusion and disappointment. So when you have, put it this way, if you have expectations, there is obviously nothing wrong with expectations, but they must be spoken. These are the things that you speak to your spouse or the person you are willing to be with, and say to them, look, I want my marriage to be like the Prince of Zamunda. Are you with me on that? Do you understand what I mean by Prince Zamunda? Do you understand how the movie unfolded? Can you reassure me? Will you be able? Will you? You are not only saying this in yourself, but you have to share it. Speak it and talk to the person you are wanting to be with, whether it's a man or a woman. Talk to each other and say, look, this is my expectations of this marriage. This is how I want it to be. This is what I'm expecting. So when you speak it out, at least you give the other person the opportunity to look and say, look, I am able to live up to that standard, or I'm not able to live up to that, and I will not live up to that standard. So you have all these things. When you talk, it helps a lot. Okay, but if you have these unspoken expectations, it will lead to confusion, disappointment, and division. So, this is why the scripture calls to clarity, honesty, and alignment with God's truth. Look, the Bible says this in Amos. The question is asked: do two people walk together unless they have agreed to do so? Do two people walk together unless they have agreed to do so? That's the question. In other words, can two people work together unless they have agreed to do so? It's impossible. I mean, it does happen that people work together without agreeing, but do you know what happens when people don't agree on something and yet they're trying to work together? You try that. Try to hold somebody's hands with whom you are in disagreement and try to go a little distance. See what happens. You cannot. You cannot hold hands and then work together in disagreement. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't happen. It won't go far. You just basically let loose because you haven't agreed. Walking together in covenant requires agreement, not assumption, not assumption. Not as I say, not assumption. So you are assuming that we will be together. Our lives are gonna be good because we will be doing this, because we will be doing that. You are assuming these things. Please do not assume. Talk and discuss this and have something down to look upon and agreed upon. Otherwise, you are headed for trouble. Unity cannot thrive where expectations are hidden or ignored. Okay, listen. If you have assumptions, you hide it. You're just hoping that this will happen. You're headed for disappointment. But I'm not gonna linger a lot on that. But let me just say the dangers of assumptions. When I say assumptions, I want you to understand you are assuming things. You know, you're saying that, oh, we're gonna be okay. We're gonna have 2 children. Me and my husband, we are gonna live in this. Me and my wife, we are going to move to this country. Me and my wife, we are going to do X, Y, and Z. Me and my wife. So you are assuming without even talking to your wife or your wife to be about what's going on in your heart. You are just assuming, like, okay, I'm gonna be the one making money. I'm gonna be walking. I'm gonna be working, and my wife is gonna be staying at home to raise our children. You are assuming. You haven't asked her. You have not talked to her. You haven't discussed all these things, but yet you're assuming somehow that your wife will take that role to be to look after children at home. I mean, did you even sit down to say, okay, look, how many children do we need to have? Okay, or are we going to have? Have you discussed about how our finances? How are we going to basically manage our finances, and who's going to be doing what? I mean, you are assuming. Don't assume that, okay, because no, don't assume. You need to talk. You need to talk, especially now as never before. You need to talk about these things. Don't assume that your wife is going to be sitting at home looking after children. Don't assume that your wife is going to be the one cooking. Don't assume your wife is going to be the one doing no, don't assume that. Don't. Times have changed. You need to be able to take this into consideration. What are the dangers of you just assuming? Okay, assumptions are silent expectation we never voice but still demand. So assumptions are silent expectations we never voice but still demand. They may sound like this: I thought you would always handle the finances. I expected you to stay home with the children. I assume you will lead spiritually in this exact way. Okay? So here's you have a situation whereby you are assuming things that are not real, and they will cause you problems. Believe you me, they will cause you problem one way or another. When these assumptions go unspoken, the other spouse is left unaware and disappointment sets in. Over time, layers of unfulfilled expectation can harden into resentment. Okay? So you had these things that you were expecting to see your spouse do, either your wife or your husband, and they haven't been doing it, and you're still not talking about it. Over a period of time, this thing is amounting, it's building up, this thing is building up. Unfulfilled stuff in you amounts to resentment. You begin to hate the person inside of you because the things you assume are not coming into fruition. And that's the danger that many people fall into. And I don't want you to fall into it, my brother. I don't want you to fall into it, my sister. So this is the reason why I'm sharing this with you. I want you to know, I want you to understand, in order for a relationship to survive some of the problems and the difficulties of relationship, you need to be able to sit down and talk and go through situations with your wife. Talk about it. Especially this is for those who are not yet married. If you're not yet married, this is very, very important for you to really think carefully. Now, 2025, in this generation, Gen Z and all of that, men, you have to understand that the things have changed. I don't know where you grew up, the culture and the environment you're in at the moment, but what I'm saying to you, that you need to take away any assumption that you may have that this is the role of a woman, this is what a woman does, and this is what a man does. No, don't go by that. You need to sit down nowadays, talk about these things and have them all settle. Otherwise, you will have to pay a heavy price. And I'm telling you this because, like I said, I went into my marriage and I had assumptions, and I knew that this is my role, this is the role of my wife, this is how it will be, and so on and so forth, which wasn't a good idea, which was not right. I should not go into a marriage with those assumptions that this is how life works. It maybe did in the days of our mothers and grandparents and all of that, but things have radically changed where we are today. So that's my advice to you, that if you are planning to get married, sit down and talk and discuss the things that you have and your values and so on and so forth. Can I just invite you, if you have not yet subscribed, please do subscribe, share this with other people. But I will talk more about this topic, and I believe this will help many people. But he will only do so if you take it upon you to share and to subscribe to this channel. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye now.